Good morning and welcome to Maryland Today. My name is Jeff St. Pierre, and joining me today, one of my favorite guests, the wonderful Deanna Booker. She's a financial expert and the manager of community outreach and communications at Consumer Credit Counseling Service of Maryland and Delaware. Welcome, Deanna.
Thank you so much for having me.
As the holidays approach, which we're pretty much there now,
Great.
Many consumers still worried about the uncertain economy. I hear that a lot.
Mm-hmm.
They may even have decided to keep their shopping to a minimum this year. With that said, it's still really easy to overindulge on things, sales and everything out there. Why do so many of us think that giving requires spending this time of year?
Well, I think it's for a bunch of reasons, but I think that the number one reason probably is because we've all had a sip of the Kool-Aid. You know, we all get into that advertising thing, and retailers started advertising for the holidays long before Halloween this year. So it's not surprising that most of us succumb to this sort of thing. I think another reason is that it's easy to rationalize kind of overspending. You buy something, and how many times, this has happened to all of us, how many times have you bought something knowing you couldn't afford it and thinking, oh, well, but it's Christmas and it's only once a year and la, 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 la. I also believe that it has something to do with emotion. We want to show that we care and that we're thinking of our family and friends, and buying something is the easiest, most kind of valuable way to do that in most folks' eyes. And so in all of this frenzy that we get caught up in, I think that we forget to think about what we're really celebrating, what we're really supposed to be celebrating. We lose touch kind of with the true meaning of the whole season.
All right, so say that I want to get back to the basics here. What would you suggest is the first step to creating a holiday that's focused on meaning and not necessarily money?
I think the first step probably is to take and make an attitude check, sort of. Take a look at how you feel about the holidays. Take a look and think about why you feel the way you do about the holidays. Most of us think that money can't buy love, it can't buy happiness. So with that said...
Wait, when did that happen?
Yeah, I know. That was just recent, Jeff. Sorry. Nobody told you. I'm so sorry. But I think it's easy to get sucked into kind of the splurging, that happens around this season. So I think that we need to just take some time to reflect. What do you want the holidays to represent? And then think about how you can make that happen. I think we also have to kind of be aware that celebrating this kind of celebration isn't something that we do by ourselves. So I think if you're going to be successful, you'll probably need to bring your family and your friends and your loved ones and your coworkers and whoever else kind of on board with you. Really just take the time to kind of back and forth, share some thoughts and ideas with them, listen to what their thoughts and ideas are, and brainstorm ways that all of you can kind of work together to make it more meaningful.
All right, so how can having a financial plan help us in this effort?
Well, it always can. We're always talking about a good financial plan, and a good financial game plan is going to help us be able to keep the emphasis on the meaning instead of the money. It helps us avoid overspending and that kind of thing. And I think the key is to start early. It allows us to kind of spread the amount out. What you need to spend, it's going to let you spread it out over a more manageable period of time. We're always talking about budgeting and planning, and it's important because those things help us avoid, buying without thinking, that kind of impulse stuff that we're always talking about. So it's a good tool. It helps us be able to kind of stick to our guns when we set that budget. So you just want to be careful. You got to carefully consider what purchases you're making, looking for non-monetary ways to celebrate. We've got to get to the point where we're going to be able to start the new year in a better place. We want to be financially free from guilt when the January bills come in. We want to have a better sense of how things are supposed to be. So I think the key is to start soon.
You just mentioned a key word. It's also a word that gets brought up a lot when I have you come in here, and it's the importance of budgeting.
Absolutely.
From a planning perspective, what should people that are listening right now do to make sure they stay on financial track during this holiday season?
Right. I think going into the holidays, it's really important to know how much you can afford to spend. So take a look at your budget. Write down all of the expenses that you have, total them all up, so you'll know what's going to be coming, because expenses aren't going to change. Even though it's holiday time, we've all still got our regular bills, that are going to come in December and in the months to follow. So you get that total, subtract from that total what your expected income is, your take home pay, whatever it might be. Whatever's left is the amount that you and your family can reasonably and realistically afford to spend without going into debt, without breaking the bank. And I always tell folks, do what Santa does. Make a list, check it twice, carry it everywhere you go. Really decide what holiday items you actually need. Think about how much you're really willing and able to spend. And like I said, take that list with you every time you go shopping. It really will help. It's going to remind you about the limits that you've set.
When it comes to holiday spending, gifts clearly have got to be one of the biggest sources of temptation for most of us. I mean, how many times you walk through the store and go, oh, that'd be perfect for whoever, and you want to grab it. What advice do you have to help us stay guilt-free and on this budget?
Well, I just think some tough love is going to have to come into play. Gift giving is really a good time to practice tough love, I think. You've got to take a look at that gift list. There we go, talking about lists again. But look at your list. Are there ways that you can cut it? Maybe every year you've been giving your Aunt Sue a gift, but maybe this time you can't. So, are there ways that you can cut that list down? Ask yourself, is it really necessary to go out and buy something? Or is there a better way, a different way that I can express my appreciation, my love, whatever it is for my friend or my relative? And maybe some of them, you don't know, maybe some of them would be just as pleased with a letter that you wrote or something that you made, different than something that you paid money for. And here again, just like we were saying a few minutes ago, talk with your friends, talk with your family members. Suggest that all of you, go into this meaning over money kind of thing together, because probably, honestly, most of them are probably just as sick of having to buy gifts for you as you are for them. So it really is a way to maybe start some new traditions.
All right, Deanna, all these ideas sound great, but what if you are in a family, or what if you have children and those kids, they have different expectations sometimes because they've got friends they want to keep up with, people in school, they're going to hear about their gifts. What do you suggest about that?
Yeah, I think it goes back to a conversation. I really do. You're going to have to, if you really want to commit to this meaning over money sort of holiday, you're going to have to talk with your children and explain to them that this year is going to be different. You want to help them understand the true meaning of the season, and that you want to spend time making memories, instead of spending money or shopping. And so think about, once you have these conversations, use that time to think about fun, low-cost activities that are really going to help the kids recognize the true spirit of Christmas. So instead of going to the mall or seeing the, latest holiday big blockbuster movie, stay at home, trim the tree, play games, go caroling, that kind of thing. Spend one evening together. This is something that I've been talking to people about recently, just considering where we are sort of as a society. I've been talking with people about spending a night or spending a day helping somebody else. And I think it's such a good thing for the children. So maybe it's volunteering at a soup kitchen or at a shelter or visiting the elderly that are in the hospital or whatever, that kind of thing. I think those kinds of activities and those kinds of events really will have an impact, even on young people. And it'll be a way to get them, again, to understand the true meaning of the season.
What about gift giving here? I know parents sometimes worry they're not going to be able to give their kids enough at Christmas. Everybody wants to let their kid have the best Christmas ever.
Right.
How can they show them they love them and still stay on track?
I think, again, it's about talking. I'm a big talker, Jeff. I am.
Never got that about you.
It's about talking. So ask the kids. Go to them and say, you know what? I know there are a lot of things maybe that you want, but ask them to make a list, maybe 3 or 4 or 5 of the items that they want the most. They really want those bad. And explain to them that you don't plan to buy all of them. So then have them sort of whittle the list down a bit more. Ask them to prioritize what they want. And here's the key to that conversation, I think. Have them tell you why they want it, why that's an important gift to them. Again, make them think about it. Maybe the list gets down to 1 thing or 2 things that, the kids really do want, that you really do want to focus on buying. But then it's about the budget. If you're on a limited budget and you really want to get those things, you might use tools like layaway to, again, be able to spread the cost over a time period. It makes it easier to pay for, some of the more expensive things that kids might be wanting. But you've got to stay on budget. And even with something with layaway, you've got to make sure you understand how it works, what the store's policies are, and that kind of thing.
Let's talk about layaway for just a second. This is something that has been gone for most of my adult life, but it's started to come back in the last few years here. I'm not really that familiar with how layaway works, and I'm sure there are a lot of other people in that same boat these days. Tell me a little bit more about it.
Most stores require that you pay a small layaway fee, maybe it's $5 or so, and that you put between 10 and 20% down when the plan is established. And then you pay an installment. So, whatever all of your things add up to, whatever that total is, you're going to pay installment payments to the store every couple of weeks or so until it's paid in full. And that's when you can take it home. Now, if you put some things on layaway and you can't finish paying for them for some reason, or you don't pick up an item, by the deadline that you've set or that they've set for you, most stores, again, are going to charge you another fee, a service fee or a restocking fee, that kind of thing. And it might be, again, 10, 15, 20 bucks. But they'll generally give you the bulk of the money back, that you had invested in it, that you'd paid over time. But again, before you sign up for layaway, ask the store, understand their policies, what the rules and regulations are. But it really is a good tool.
Something else I've heard here used sometimes is a payday loan. Do you think something like that would be a good idea around this time of year?
Payday loans, they offer cash advances when money's tight, but they don't adequately, payday lenders, I should say, don't adequately inform the borrower of all the risks that are involved or all the risks that they could face. And these risks are high borrowing fees, really high interest rates, high security risks because, you're giving out a lot of your personal information. The fees that a lot of payday lenders charge range anywhere from $10 per 100 up to $30 per 100 borrowed. That's a lot of money. Now, in Maryland, legitimate payday loan providers must be licensed, and the amount that they can charge for interest is capped at 33%. But I'm here to tell you that 33% is still really, really high.
That's a lot of money.
It really is. Payday loans offered over the internet usually are less scrupulous, and they charge even more fees. I've seen some of them with interest rates that are 700%.
Oh, my gosh.
It's crazy. And once you're locked in, that's the thing about payday loans. Once you're locked in, the amounts, the fees, the payments are withdrawn directly from your checking account. So if you get behind or you can't manage, it's going to mess things up, for the other things that you may have automatically drawn or your other bills, that sort of thing. So payday loans are tricky and they're dangerous. Instead of taking out a payday loan, talk with the kids, talk with your family so that everybody understands what's happening with our money situation. And then think about ways to do meaning over money.
Seen the trend turning this way a lot more over the last few years, and even this year on the so-called Cyber Monday, huge sales. So it looks like a lot more people are starting to shop online. What do people need to know if they're shopping there?
I always say when we're talking about online transactions, make sure you know who you're dealing with. That's the most important thing to me, making sure that you know who you're dealing with before you make transactions. But then you just want to maximize your online dollars just like you would in the mall. So look for online coupons, before you make a purchase, compare prices at different sites, find deals of the day, places like Mama Bargains, minisocial.com. Those places are great for deals. Check Facebook and Twitter for deals at sites you like. And the other thing about online shopping is shipping. A lot of times folks get so caught up and they're buying things online, they don't consider the shipping costs, when they're budgeting for it. And you'd be surprised how those charges can add up. You end up paying just as much sometimes for shipping as you do for the stuff. So you really want to make sure you're paying attention to that kind of thing. I know Amazon, if you regularly use Amazon.com, you might want to consider signing up for their Amazon.com Prime because it provides free shipping, that kind of thing. But I think those are the most important things about shopping online.
With all this spending going on this time of year, I'm sure identity thieves are just chomping at the bit to get at us here. How can we protect ourselves when we're shopping at a store or online?
Right. I think in the stores, the most important thing is watch what you're carrying around. So you never want to take more ID to the mall with you than you need. And you absolutely never, ever want to take your Social Security card with you. It really is the gateway to your identity. If an identity thief gets it, they can just do so much damage. So when you're at the mall, don't leave your personal information in the car. A lot of times we throw the purse or the bag or whatever down. Don't leave the stuff around where it can be seen and where thieves could get to it. You really want to guard your purse and your wallet while you're shopping. When you're making transactions, you're at the counter. Look who's around you. Identity thieves like to do something called shoulder surfing, where they're just kind of looking over your shoulder and trying to see the numbers on your card. So you really want to make sure you're shielding your card so prying eyes don't get a crack at it. And online, just like we were saying, only shop with sites that you know and trust. Don't respond to unsolicited email promotions. Never share your personal information. I can't say that enough. Never conduct any transactions on unsecured sites. That really, really is important. And while you're doing all this shopping and as the bills are coming in, this is really a time where you want to pay very, very careful attention to your credit card and your bank statements. Make sure that you recognize all the charges that are appearing on them.
Well, Deanna, we have had a lot of great information here, as always, when you come by. But I do have one more question here for you. What advice do you have for those of us who may spend too much money during the holiday season and we realize that we've got a problem when the bills roll in next month?
Yeah, and it happens a lot.
It's going to happen to me, so I'll be calling you.
Oh,
soon,
no.
Sure.
The first step is to really find out just exactly how far you went overboard. How much did you overspend? Really figure out where you stand now. To do that, total up your monthly income, total up the expenses, look at the new holiday credit card charges, and then subtract. Do that math and see what you've got left. If you're in the negative, if you're left with a negative balance, you want to get immediate help. Take immediate action. Don't wait. Figure out how you can look for ways to cut back on your expenses or ways to increase your income. And if you need outside help, get it and get it right away. At Consumer Credit Counseling, we offer free, confidential budget and credit counseling at our offices and by phone. Folks can make an appointment with us. They can call our 800 number. It's 800-642-2227 or visit our website, www.cccs-inc.org, and they can learn everything they need to know about our services there.
Well, she's Deanna Booker, a financial expert with Consumer Credit Counseling Service of Maryland and Delaware. Deanna, thank you so much for coming by. Before I do kick you out, though, can you give us that contact information one more time?
Sure. The number is 1-800-642-2227, and the website is cccs-inc.org.
Deanna Booker, thank you as always for coming by and giving us all this wonderful info.
It's my pleasure.
And please stick around because Maryland Today will return in just a minute.